In this game, greatness is measured by the moments that defy the odds. The crack of the bat, the roar of the bleachers, and the rare perfect sequence of excellence. From the first pitch to the final out, we aren't just watching the game, we're breaking it down. From the Empty the Bench Network, it's time for you to step into the box. You are hitting for the cycle. And now, here's your hosts, Ben Kruse, David Waitman, and Ryan Touhey.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Hitting for the Cycle. I'm your host, Ben Kruse, alongside my co-host, Ryan Touhey. Ryan, welcome back. I know we obviously missed you last week. Thank you, David, for, of course, being with me last week. But, Ryan, welcome back for this week. I hope you're doing well, my friend. How's everything going with you?
Yeah, I was absent from last week. I had a couple of things going on, but it's good to be back this week. And I'm doing fine, and we are officially 6 days away from opening day. It's wild to think that it's already here. We just concluded a very wild and successful WBC tournament, which we're going to talk about. And baseball is really back in full swing, basically, at this point.
Yeah, for sure. Baseball, of course, is coming up next week. Really quickly before we get into our socials, I do obviously want to have some really, unfortunate news. Number one, another thing too, some exciting news. First of all, the unfortunate news is the dean of my college, who was 69, unfortunately passed away last night. I found that out on my Amtrak train ride back from DC. Very heartbreaking stuff. And I wanted to, first of all, just have a quick remembrance of just, thanks for everything that she gave to me, my diploma, and just absolute heartbreaking stuff. Apparently she was dealing with some brain damage, or I don't know the whole entire story, but just very, very heartbreaking stuff. She was 69 on this situation. So, rest in peace to Dr. Paula Rooney. I appreciate you. I love you. And, may her heart and soul be with us. So I just want to quickly say that, Ryan, to start the show, because I felt like that was definitely much needed, and very, very heartbreaking stuff for sure on that.
Very sorry to hear about that. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for her family and everybody else who she touched. So, yes, much rest in peace.
Thank you. Yeah. We don't know in terms of when a service would be or not, but just wanted to obviously start with that for the show. Another really quick thing is March Madness is happening today. Hopefully brackets and everything, of course, is ready for the day. Of course, the Madness, of course, we'll be bringing on our end here is we're going to, of course, bring you guys everything, of course, before opening day. That's next week. So let's get to it. So obviously, as usual, make sure to follow us here down in the Hitting for the Cycle. Make sure to subscribe to the Empty the Bench Network on YouTube. Follow across all of our social medias at HFTC ETB. Here we go. YouTube, ETB Network. Of course, make sure to follow us at Hitting for the Cycle at HFTC ETB. And make sure to follow me at bkruse90. Also, make sure to follow Ryan at R297. And of course, to make sure to follow Damon at Waitman Stats. Just want to quickly just give David my best of luck. He is actually be working the March Madness this weekend. So really awesome stuff for David. Wish him well. Hope he's going to have a really fun tournament. Of course, he's doing that over in Philly, and hopefully we will get him back for next week. All right, Ryan. So in terms of this overall show, we're going to get into a couple topics. Obviously, there's another player that has now been suspended with another positive test. We will get into that. A couple other things in terms of Major League Baseball as a whole, bringing back a couple different experiences with rule changes. MLB is bringing back a major rule change to the minor leagues in 2026. We're also, of course, going to be talking about the end of the World Baseball Classic and just in terms of all over our overall thoughts. And obviously, we're going to preview opening day right at the end of this program. Of course, it's going to be next week. we will have to find out in terms of if we're going to actually have our show on opening day next week. We'll have to make sure about that, and we'll figure that stuff out. All right, Ryan, let's get into it. So the Phillies, Johan Rojas got suspended 80 games following a positive test. There were reports out that, according from the Athletic, Evan Drellick, he was saying it was Miguel Rojas originally, and then he said basically backtracked it, and it was Johan Rojas. This is coming from a AP article. So yeah, he was suspended on Monday for the performance-enhancing substance Boldenone. I don't know really what that is per se, but it's one of those other performance-enhancing drugs, I guess. And it was announced after a grievance filed by the Players Association appealing the discipline that was denied by independent arbitrator Martin F. Scheinman. Baron Reynolds Rojas will be eligible to play for the Phillies on June 25th, and he's going to be losing about $395,305 in salary from his contract, which will be paying at a rate of $803,500 while in the major leagues, and $321,826 while in the minors. If there are no postponements, the suspension would be over 92 days of the 187 game season. Well, last year, for those that want to know who Rojas is, he's an outfielder, Ryan, I think.
Yes.
So, yeah, he's an outfielder. He hit 224 with only 1 home run, 18 RBIs, and 12 stolen bases for the Phillies last year. And he actually got demoted to AAA for the Lehigh Valley. And David probably knows him very well, of course, in his area. And yeah, he went 3 of 15 with 1 RBI for the Phillies during spring training this season. So, Ryan, here we go again. Obviously, Profar, his second time around, he got a massive, thing to him. And now you got Rojas, who is now suspended for 80 games with this situation. So, I mean, really, like kind of the other one, there's really nothing else to say, but this guy's an idiot. It's really on himself. There's really nobody else that you can control besides him. And yeah, he's just going to have to pay the consequences for this. 80 games, that's basically half the season. And, hopefully he can learn from it.
Oh, he had nothing to say to the press once the news broke on Monday. This news broke on March 16th. Todd Zalecki of MLB.com mentioned that Rojas has been suspended for 80 games due to testing positive for Boldenone, which is a performance-enhancing drug, and that's in violation of the league's joint drug prevention and treatment policy. And as we mentioned, Rojas is now serving an 80-game suspension. Rojas wasn't going to be figuring into the regular season picture for the Phillies at the beginning of opening day, but there could have been a shot that he could have come up to the big leagues at some point this year if the Phillies, Justin Crawford, their number 3 prospect, and Adolis Garcia were struggling at some point during the season. He could have at least made an appearance this year and maybe had a chance to become an everyday player. But that's not happening anytime soon now with the suspension. And like you mentioned, in addition to that, he is now ineligible to be on the postseason roster for the Phillies. So, yeah, I said it a couple of weeks ago when it came to Profar, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And that's basically the same case here with Johan Rojas. He has nobody to blame but himself, like you mentioned. And now with this suspension, I'm just reading the rest of this article that the outfield picture for the Phillies is kind of a question mark going into this season. Brandon Marsh is most likely going to be moving to center field if Crawford is unable to play for the Phillies. There's just a lot of uncertainty surrounding the outfield. Yes, so I mean, it definitely, even though he wasn't going to be on the major league roster on opening day, it definitely hurts the Phillies moving forward. I mean, because now you're going to be without this guy for depth for at least a good portion of the regular season. So it not only hurts Rojas, it definitely hurts the Phillies. So shame on Rojas.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing about Rojas, at least, was it seemed like he at least had some speed. And so at least it wasn't like, he really didn't bring much outside of that, but you obviously need some guys that, of course, can, impact the game Of course, we just saw it in the final game for Venezuela USA for a guy for Venezuela that had a massive stolen base. Of course, we'll talk about that on the program, but you need some of those type of guys. So, I mean, the Phillies, say what you want, of course, want Rojas, of course, being an offensive defensive player. It is a tough loss, because you need to either have depth, you need to have some guys that can be game changers, and this guy, of course, has some ability to make something happen. So, yeah, he of course is going to deal with this, and it's tough for them. But he's going to hopefully have to learn and kind of go from there. So, all right, we're going to get into next the Major League Baseball. Ryan, did you happen to ever see this by any chance, or not?
I did not see this. To be quite
Okay.
honest, if you could just quickly run over what this story revolves around.
Yeah, so this was from MLB.com like 2 days ago. So obviously this topic that the MLB is going to be bringing back a major rule change experience to the minor leagues in 2026. So this is coming from Jared Greenspan. This was from yesterday. And basically this is kind of what was as follows. So it said here, so several experimental rule changes are coming to the minor league baseball ahead of the upcoming 2026 season. The new rules will be implemented in various ways across different levels on the minors. They are designed to further improve the pace of play, increase action, and provide additional opportunities for players to showcase their athleticism. Some of baseball's recent innovations, like the pitch timer and the ABS challenge system, also began as minor league experiments. However, right now, the latest slew of rule changes are simply experimental with no imminent arrival in the majors. Here is a rundown of the latest experimental rules coming to minor league baseball in 2026. So one of them is moving the second base. So right now, the second base bag is halfway inside and halfway outside the imaginary diamond, if you want to. So actually, like right here is a photo. I'm sorry, I'm trying to, so you can kind of see.
I can see it.
Yeah, so you can obviously kind of see the minor league baseball logo because that's, of course, what they're trying to implement. And so second base, they're going to kind of put in kind of a different spot, I guess.
Move it back just a little bit.
They're basically, so MLB increased the size of the bases from 15 inches to 18 inches, initially incentivizing players to steal more bases. So that's kind of the way they kind of want to take a look at it. And they obviously want to bring that to the minor leagues. Right now, the second base bag is halfway inside and halfway outside the imaginary diamond if you were to kind of draw a line around the infielder. The second rule was going to be swing rules. So on May 5th, the Pacific Coast League is implementing a check swing rule. So players could be allowed to appeal the umpire's decision as to whether or not the batter actually swung at a pitch. Usually bat track technology, a swing will be called when the maximum angle between the bat head and the bat handle is greater than 45 degrees. The rule is actually also tested in the Florida State League and the Arizona Fall League in 2025. According to the league, the strikeout rate was over 3% lower when the check swing challenge was used, leading the balls more in play. So teams are going to be starting the game of tool challenges and may use a challenge in either a ball or strike, or swing and no swing calls, but not both on the same exact pitch. And then, of course, we got actually two more other rules, Ryan. I obviously won't go into the whole entire details, but additional pitch clock situation. Of course, we've been seeing that, of course, in Major League Baseball. So obviously, the last year in the majors, Ryan, you want to kind of guess what the average 9-inning game usually would be lasting for?
Last year?
Yeah. Well, what was the average, you think, in terms of time for a 9-inning baseball game?
I'm probably wrong on this, but I would maybe say around 2.5 hours, something like that.
You're really close. Yeah, they said it's about 2 hours and 38 minutes, up to basically an average of 2 hours and 36 the year prior. So basically, with these new measures, they're going to, in the minors, they're going to be implementing it to hopefully kind of make the game and the pace of play quicker for that. And we kind of saw that last year in a way where I think a lot of people were very against it at first, but they definitely were able to kind of figure it out, kind of as things kind of went on. It really did not make a massive push. And the last thing's going to be is starting pitchers returning back to the game. This one is kind of interesting. So in the Arizona Fall League, the Florida Complex League, and the Dominican Summer League, the starting pitcher will be permitted to re-enter a game after being removed. So as long as the re-entry occurs in the inning that immediately follows the starting departure, to be eligible for re-entry, the starting pitcher must throw at least 25 pitches in the inning during which he was removed. A similar rule is being placed in play in MLB spring training since 2021. So, Ryan, is there anything that you at least got from that kind of maybe stood out to you, kind of some things that, at least for minor league baseball, maybe it's something that is good for the league, bad for the league? Do you have any other leftover thoughts of what this is?
All right. Well, I guess with the second base movement, I don't really necessarily care so much about that necessarily. It is what it is. If they want to move the base just a few feet back from where it originally was, so be it. I guess I don't really think so much about that. The second one, what was it with the check swing?
So basically it was swing rules. So basically the players would be allowed to appeal the ump's decision as to whether or not the batter actually swung at a pitch.
So they'd be able to challenge whether or not they think a batter.
Correct.
Okay.
But basically, so the teams actually, you know how they usually start with a couple challenges for like ABS.
Yes.
So teams would be able to start with 2 challenges and may use a challenge on either a ball or strike call or a swing or no swing call, but not at the same exact pitch.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense. I guess I would be okay with that as well. I think because check swings, they are always so controversial in baseball. It's almost impossible for an umpire sometimes to get it right 100% of the time.
Right.
I mean, I feel like it's getting harder because the guys' swings nowadays are just very, very quick. And I just think that umpires are just having a harder time reading a batter's swing. And I feel like that's always been the case, but I think it's gotten worse in recent years. I just vividly remember a couple of years ago where Bryce Harper lashed out at Angel Hernandez because Angel Hernandez couldn't tell if Bryce Harper didn't swing, but he said he did swing, even though it wasn't even close. So I think it's been getting worse, honestly. So I'm all right with that. And adding 2 challenges for check swings because those are pivotal moments in games as well. Those can dictate at bats. So I think it's any chance there is to improve that aspect of an at bat. I think that's a positive. And then the last thing you mentioned, bringing back a starting pitcher, I hate it. No way do I want to see that. That is ridiculous.
It said that the starting pitcher must throw at least 25 pitches. But then I've looked at that rule, and it said that it occurred in MLB spring training. So 20 in spring training is one thing, right?
Yes.
But if it's an actual game in which, I mean, granted, it's minor league baseball, I'm fine with the ABS, the pace of play, this and that. This is one I don't like at all either. I think that this one, it's a risk on some of these pitchers in terms of coming back in. They obviously have to have more warming up. But you could say, well, Ben, it's just like, it's basically kind of like having a pitcher come back out for another inning, except he's missing a couple innings and then he can come back. No. You need to, when you're essentially, I mean, I pitched in terms of as a pitcher myself. When you're essentially pitching, you feel like you're going to be either in a rhythm or not in a rhythm. And when you essentially miss a couple innings, then come back in, at least to me, it kind of screws everything up because there's a certain something that you kind of can feel because your velocity on your pitches, your movement on your feet. I agree with you, Ron. I don't really understand this at all. I think for spring training, it's one thing because spring training games, they don't mean much of anything. It's really just kind of get the guys, get their feet wet and, kind of get themselves worked on some different type of things. This for minor league baseball, I don't care if it's the Cape Cod League, this league, Major League Baseball. I don't like this at all.
Well, yeah, and I mean that's a good point that you brought up in terms of it can screw up a pitcher's rhythm and their body, like trying to get back to the swing of things after sitting on the bench for however long they were sitting. Yeah. But another thing but actually what I was thinking when it came to this rule change is the fact that say you're facing an ace, one of the best pitchers in baseball. Say somebody was knocking around Tariq Skubal, and they knock him out maybe in the second or third inning. I know that's very rare. I can't remember the last time that's happened. But the point that I'm trying to make but the point I'm trying to make here is if you were to knock out like a top pitcher in baseball, especially in a high stakes game or something like that, I mean, not only is, your reward scoring a bunch of runs off of him, but your reward is knocking him out of the game. You've earned that right to not have to face him again for the rest of the game. And the fact that the fact that baseball is just thinking of, letting them come back in after you worked so hard to get him out in the first place, that's a lot of crap if you ask me. No, that team earns the right to not have to face him again for the rest of the game. They worked at bats. They scored their runs. He can sit on the bench for the rest of the game. He doesn't deserve to pitch for the rest of the game. It's not fair. That's stupid.
Yeah.
So, that last rule is asinine to me.
Yeah, I was going to have I don't know if the comparison would work or not. It's not baseball related, but let me know, of course, if this is kind of something that, might be rare or not. But I was thinking about, of course, when you're saying, it's like when you're on a 50-mile bike ride, right? And you're basically at least about the 30-mile mark, but then you decide to back out of it. And you pretty much wait for about 2 hours. And then you basically have to kind of start back up again. No, you need to have the adrenaline to keep on going. And it's basically if you give up on something, you give up. There's no looking back now. It's either you're in for it and you're out of it. So you made a great point with Skubal in terms of Skubal obviously more times than not, that's not going to happen, but it's just an overall example, right? And that if he is knocked out, he gives up 6 runs, maybe including a couple home runs. He doesn't deserve to go back in this game. So that's essentially kind of what we're getting at. And, I bet there's people that like this here and there. Of course, we're not going to, judge you or not for this, but Ryan and I are in favor that out of all of these rules, that is the rule specific that we do not like. So hopefully that doesn't move forward. We will kind of keep you guys in tune for that, but keep that for spring training and leave it for there. Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's that. All right, Ryan, let's get into the World Baseball Classic recap and bracket. Really quickly, want to congratulate Team Venezuela on winning this year's 2026 World Baseball Classic. Ryan, I know, of course, we talked about the World Baseball Classic before the tournament. I know a couple other people on this network weren't really in as favor for this tournament. I, obviously, for myself, just thought it was a really good kind of way to kind of open up this baseball season. We needed some meaningful baseball before regular season, of course, which we'll have next week. We'll talk about that a little bit as well. But I think just as a big overall picture as a whole, whether you like the overall tournament or not, I think that this tournament was a very big success for most people. I really do think that even for non-baseball fans, there's a lot of people that are very tuned into it, really kind of after when it kind of got into elimination play, which I think was awesome to see, especially, for your country. And, of course, the Americans, of course, got to the finals. So a lot of people obviously were tuned in. I obviously watched at a bar in D.C. with a friend of mine who's not even a real big of a baseball fan. He's kind of more of a casual. But even him himself, I was getting him to pretty much right at the end there of the game. So I think it was really, really awesome to see. And I was talking to you off the air about with this overall tournament and what it obviously brings, the energy. In terms of, I was joking around with David last week, of course, we were talking about as well, in terms of that's obviously going to be the biggest crowds that Miami's going to be getting, before the actual season, because the Marlins are terrible, unfortunately. Give credit to, of course, the locations, by the way, on this tournament, at least in the U.S. Houston was awesome. It looked like Miami, of course, was phenomenal. It just seemed like everything was I looked at behind the scenes, and maybe there was a couple things. I thought everything was kind of really well run. I thought there was a lot of things to this in which it was just awesome. It felt great. I think, of course, too, 2 weeks is a pretty good time frame, of course, of watching this and then kind of being all right, of course, that's kind of it. I think there's some players that kind of backed out. You kind of saw, Ryan, some of the Americans kind of started back out a little bit and kind of go back to their spring training sites a little bit. But all in all, whether you want to say it or not, I at least thought, to me, it was a really great well-run tournament, and we'll get into some of these knockout games for you guys as well. So, Ryan, do you have anything just in terms of overall conclusion, I guess, of this overall thing really quick before we get into some of these games?
I will say this about the WBC. It's certainly entertaining, and the crowds definitely showcase the excitement of the WBC, especially crowds like fans like the DR fans, Puerto Rico, Venezuela. You know, those countries, they really show their enthusiasm, even more than the Americans. To be honest with you, I mean, they make us look like amateurs. They go rowdy, they party, they are proud people. I guess we ought to take notes. But
we got to step up our game badly because they're putting up the score right now.
But the tournament overall was very good. I did enjoy watching a lot of the games, and like I said, the crowd atmosphere really just added a little spice to that. So I really liked the locations, like you mentioned. I thought Houston was a very good location. Miami's always a good location. Puerto Rico, I forget where. Countries like Puerto Rico and Canada, they were in the same pool. I forget exactly where.
I think they had theirs in San Juan. I think
it was San Juan. If I'm not, I'm not 100% sure. But you know, the crowds there were great. The only downside to that place was that it rained constantly. That's the only downside to there. But you know, that's besides the point. And of course, the Tokyo Dome, always a nice place to watch a baseball game on TV. And you know, it's cool. It's a cool atmosphere to just be able to see all these different countries and all these different players play against one another and really promote baseball. And baseball is growing globally. And you know, a lot of people and a lot of players have really expressed genuine enthusiasm for this tournament. And I think it will continue to grow in the coming years. Really, the last one in 23, that was really kind of the turning point for this whole tournament to begin with. I mean, the tournament pre-2023 was kind of lacking. There wasn't a whole lot of intrigue or excitement surrounding the tournament. Once 2023 rolled around and you had guys like Ohtani and Mike Trout playing in it, then it really started to take off, and then the big names started to join the tournament. And obviously we saw that this year with guys like Aaron Judge and Bryce Harper joining the tournament. And it's continuing to grow, which I think is very good for the sport of baseball in general. And congratulations to Venezuela on winning their first WBC championship. And I don't really have anything else to add on that other than it was a very entertaining tournament.
Ryan, this kind of tournament has kind of gotten me hooked enough in which I am really taking into massive considerations of going on the next one. I really do. I think there were some people that, at least on social media, that just posted different things going to their first time and basically just saying, like, this is the loudest environment, not only that they have seen in baseball, but just in terms of sports in general. And I think it's just because, like we mentioned, like some of these countries, DR and Venezuela, I mean, you had marching bands, the concourses. It was just different. I think it's kind of cool to kind of see that. So let's get into some of these games, though, folks, for you guys. And obviously, in terms of, as me and Ryan are as Americans, obviously, Ryan, last week, since you weren't on, we obviously don't have to really kind of go in the early part of this overall thing, but I will just say as an overall whole, and David and I talked about this last week. Did you see the comment that Mark DeRosa had about what was it? Now I'm just drawing a blank now since this is over.
Well, he was. He mentioned how they thought that they already punched their ticket to the quarterfinals.
Yeah. So we put the video out, and David and I were talking about that last week. Do you have anything really quick to say about that overall thing? Because I thought you would just think as a manager, because they lost, and they literally, if it wasn't for Team Italy to beat Mexico, the U.S. wouldn't have not even made the final, made the game against DR, let alone the final. So they needed a little bit of luck to kind of help them out. And it was because of that U.S. used guys like Ryan Yarbrough. And this is obviously not a knock on your boy Ryan Yarbrough, right? But Mark DeRosa essentially was playing this game as a game in which they already assumed that they clinched, and they didn't. So that was complete of, if they didn't have that, that comment, obviously, U.S. obviously lost the final, of course, is one thing, but they would have gotten laughed at for not even making it to the first round international play. I mean, that was completely embarrassing.
Sure, it was embarrassing. Do I think it was kind of overblown a little bit? Yeah, I do, to an extent. I mean, the whole seeding thing and how it's determined whether or not a team moves on to the elimination rounds. It is a little convoluting, at least for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't 100% sure exactly how it was going to work out. I mean, still though, as the manager, you need to know the scenario. There's no excuses for it. So yeah, I mean, it was a bad look for DeRosa, no doubt about it. But I think people want to try. I think there was talk about DeRosa saying how he would be interested in returning to the dugout in the next WBC. I don't know how many people are necessarily in favor of that. I think it's kind of split. I mean, I don't have a problem with DeRosa, honestly. I think he's very knowledgeable. I think he could make a good manager in Major League Baseball, possibly. But I mean, that was not a good look for him at all. And they got lucky. He got spared from the team that beat them. In Team Italy. Like you mentioned, if Italy hadn't beaten Mexico, then the U.S. would have been done. So he got very, very lucky.
One thing too, I mentioned to David as well last week. I don't know if you're aware about this. So obviously, the Summer Olympics are going to be in LA. The summer ones, and 2028. Yes. Thank you. So John Morosi was saying on the broadcast during the Italy-Mexico game that there's only, I think, 6 teams or 7 teams, maybe. I think there's at least maybe 6.
6 countries.
6 countries that get eligible. He said since Mexico lost that they are going to not make the top 6, I think, because Team US is already one of them because they are the host country. And then you probably have the other ones in which you look at it, probably DR, Venezuela. I don't obviously know what they're going to be, but I'm like, Mexico is one of the best countries when it comes to baseball. And would it just be crazy, Ryan, if they just didn't make that in the top 6 for the Summer Olympics? I mean, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to qualify for the Olympics. I mean, it's a very small group of teams that are going to be able to play, and it was the whole thing was kind of just it was a sticky situation. Nobody really came out looking good, and the fact that the United States had to rely on Italy to beat Mexico to even move on in the tournament it felt so undeserving. Honestly, that was the best. That's the best way that I can describe it. Even after the United States was able to move on to the elimination rounds, I just felt like watching them. I just felt like we don't deserve to be in this game at all. The United States should have went undefeated beforehand. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Based on based on the sheer talent and the names that they had on this on their roster. And I mean, it was a badly and mistakenly managed game by DeRosa. Obviously, he took it lightly. He took it for granted in the end, and they paid the price. And I'm sure DeRosa learned his lesson. So I think we can move on from that. The fact of the matter is the U.S. did, advance the elimination rounds. But I know for a fact that DeRosa was probably somewhat embarrassed of that, and I think that was kind of a wake-up call. Like, you can never take any game for granted, no matter what. So I think he learned his lesson.
All right, so let's get a couple into some of these games. So obviously in the knockout stage, really quickly, I'm obviously not going to go through all the recaps of it because we're kind of running on time. But Team Italy, you talk about a team that really had a great Cinderella run this year. They obviously beat the Americans. They went neck and neck to the eventual champs in Venezuela. That's a team I think is going to be on the uprise. I mean, a guy like Vinny Pasquantino hitting 3 homers against the Mexico game in which U.S. ended up obviously moving on from. He was big. They obviously had a couple other players as well there too. Jack Caglione. I'll tell you what, Ryan, Kansas City, if they can get those 2 guys obviously playing like they did in the WBC, things can obviously change with them for sure, because that was definitely impressive stuff. The Americans obviously facing DR. Ryan, this was, of course, one of the most anticipating matchups in the tournament. This was from this past Sunday. You had Paulie Skeens taking on that DR lineup, which Ryan, that lineup, like, oh my God, just the names from 1 to 7, it was terrifying, complete terrifying. And I'm basically just watching this game on the edge of my seat every single inning because it said 2 up, Manny Machado, Junior Caminero, Fernando Tatis Jr. It's like, oh my God, Juan Soto. So Paulie
Soto was Soto Puerto Rico, or was he? Oh no, he was DR.
He was DR. So yeah, that DR lineup. I mean, Julio Rodriguez is like your 7-hitter. I mean, jeez, like, what are we doing here? It's just absolutely incredible stuff that the DR lineup has. And your boy Severino was absolutely he was going crazy. Pipping 99 on the black on this US lineup. I'm like, dude, like, where the hell was this from?
When was the last time he hit 99?
Yeah, in the emotion that he had after a couple of the strikeouts that he had. I know the one I got on Schwarber, a couple of other ones. I'm like, Ryan, we're looking at like old Yankee Severino here. Like this is a little bit hairy here. What a game. Obviously, Ryan, the last strike that was on Perdomo, of course, was a massive, massive talking point, in which, for those that don't remember, Perdomo was up, worked a really good at bat on Mason Miller, full count pitch. Ryan, I don't know if you even actually happen to have the picture of the strike or whatever, but it pretty much is put on everywhere, in which the strike, it wasn't really close to strike. Now, granted to the umpire, Ryan, and I think this is where, of course, people kind of have to realize this, is that the ball was kind of going into the strike zone before, of course, the ball dropped. And give a lot of credit to Will Smith, in which sometimes the catchers just make perfect frame calls on it, and he made a really good frame on it. Like, the ball obviously was going into the strike. It was one thing if he made a terrible call. It wasn't a great call, but it's one thing if the ball wasn't going into the plane of the strike zone and they called it a strike. At least it was going into the plane of it. So the umpire was kind of going based on that. And it was like strike 3, and then you see Perdomo obviously, freaking out, flipping out. Into his defense, of course, he was upset. But I'm going to say this as well. And of course, obviously I was happy in the moment. I was like, you got to take it as an American. But the DR lineup, Ryan, with all that they had, I don't feel sorry for them, because all that lineup that they had 4 or 5 chances with runners in scoring position, sometimes with even second and third less than 2 outs. Bases loaded at times, less than 2 outs or 2 outs. They had chances to cash in. And, obviously you wanted to have, Ryan, I think many people wanted to have a chance to see Fernando Tatis Jr. take on his teammate Mason Miller for a chance to see if they either tie it or they walk it off. I think a lot of people, of course, want to see that for the theatrics. Unfortunately, of course, it didn't happen, right? But I just thought that was an incredible game for a 2-1 type of game. And Roman Anthony, you got to give credit to the Red Sox, right? I know obviously you can't really say much about it, but the Red Sox did really show out in the World Baseball Classic. Whether it was Roman Anthony, Whitlock, obviously I'll talk about very, very shortly, but Whitlock, Wilyer Abreu, my goodness, Wilyer was looking phenomenal in this one. Yankees obviously had some guys too, but the Red Sox, man, Jaron Duran, obviously Team Mexico. It was a really good play game, a 2-1 game. I just really want to ask you, Ryan, how you feel about that last strike call, though.
The way I feel about that last strike call was it was a missed call. I mean, I don't know if you can really see it on my phone here, but this is how bad it was. You can see it was definitely a couple of inches off the plate.
Yeah.
I obviously don't blame Perdomo or the DR fans of getting upset with that. But like you mentioned, the DR had plenty of other chances to capitalize. I think they left a ton of men on base. They had multiple scoring chances in multiple innings with less than 2 outs. I think they had multiple scoring chances, I think, in the 5th, 6th, and 7th, something like that.
Look at this.
Yeah.
I even saved this.
Yep. Bottom 4, bottom 5, bottom 7, and bottom 9. They had all those chances.
Yep. 3 of the 4 were less than 2 outs with that lineup. Yep.
And they didn't capitalize. That's why they lost the game, more so than the final strike call. That's the biggest reason why they lost. So, yes, you can be upset with the final strike call, but, at the end of the day, you had plenty of other opportunities to, take the lead and pull away in the game, and you didn't. And that's why most teams lose. They don't capitalize on opportunities. Yes, we give umpires a very hard time, sometimes rightfully so, but at the end of the day, the reason why most teams lose a big game is because they don't take advantage of opportunities enough. And that's always going to be the case, especially nowadays now you're going to be using ABS and replay challenges and all the stuff now you have at your fingertips. You're not going to be able to blame umpires as much as you would love to.
Don't let the game, don't let it get to this point in terms of the umpire dictating the call. You had the chances.
Yep. So, and the DR, this is of all the WBC tournaments that they've been a part of, this is probably their worst loss in the WBC. They were my pick to win the tournament this year. I had them defeating the U.S. in the championship game. But yeah, DR, it's definitely a disappointment for them. There's no doubt about it. I thought that with the roster that they assembled for the tournament this year, I thought that they were going to just blow through the opposition. And they just didn't get the job done. And now they got to wait till next tournament to try and redeem themselves. And, that, like I said, that fan base is rowdy and they are crazy and they're fun to watch. It's fun to watch them in the stands and everything like that. And I know that it definitely hurt them after that final strike call. So, yeah, I know that the DR is definitely going to be looking for redemption in the next WBC.
Yeah, and they're going to be looking for redemption in the Olympics in LA.
Yes,
that's going to be absolute saints. Really quickly, Team Japan, they got bounced to Venezuela as well. Yeah. Ryan, we got to talk about. I know, of course, we talk a lot about Ohtani, but can we just sit back for a sec and just see baseball and absolute greatness, where you had the first batter of the top number one, Ronald Acuna Jr. Please stay healthy. Please, Ronald. Hit an absolute bomb. Bottom half of Ohtani. First batter up. Bomb. You can't get any better than that. You just can't. But really quickly, folks, let's get into the final. Venezuela, Team USA. Ryan, this is, of course, where I question Mark DeRosa. And I know, of course, my old friend Eduardo Rodriguez will not bump for Venezuela. Gunnar Henderson being out of the lineup was complete idiocy. This was a Team USA lineup which was completely really struggling, but Gunnar the game before hit the home run with Roman Anthony as well, and he was on the lineup, so that was really questionable for sure. Byron Buxton, he really did not much to do with anything. Why was PCA not on that lineup? I don't know. He was one of the guys that obviously was tons of. I get it was a lefty, and I get Bregman obviously hits with water well. But, dude, I just don't understand. And then Garrett Whitlock, obviously. So, for those, of course, I'll give a little quick recap here. So, obviously, Venezuela had a 2-0 lead. The U.S. did not hit. That was really the kind of the bottom line in terms of why they lost. They did not hit with that lineup. They really struggled in the game before. They ended up winning 2-1. But obviously, Bryce, of course, had a big game. I'll talk about that. But Bryce, for most of the tournament, did not do much of anything. You could talk about your boy Judge. Listen, Judge, of course, really struggled a lot, the last couple games. But he was not the massive reason why they lost. It was a whole tournament. There were so many guys in Team USA. Bobby really didn't do much. Schwarber struggled a lot, obviously, after kind of, elimination play. Roman, obviously, had a tough one. But, I think a lot of people, of course, were blaming Judge because he is the captain, of course, in the postseason situation before Ryan. Ryan, I'm going to back you up in this situation as a Sox fan. Was Judge bad in this game when they needed it? Absolutely. He was terrible. He was awful. But Judge also the game before threw a guy out at third base, essentially kind of keeping the game at bay too. So he made some plays. And he got robbed by J-Rod in that game, the game prior. So, and other guys just weren't playing to their best. So, obviously, you kind of want to follow Judge's lead. Was he bad? Yes. But other guys, too, needed to step up as well, too. And Bryce Harper obviously tied the game up with a guy in first base in the bottom of the eighth. Man, Ryan, that homer was chills. That homer, if we won the championship, that was just, And Bryce obviously needed something like that so bad because he was just struggling so badly. And to get that home run, what do you think about that home run really quick that Bryce hit?
It was a work of art Harper's got one of the most beautiful swings in baseball, and that was just a majestic shot. It's always fun to watch Harper hit a home run.
Yeah, and too, when he hits a homer, you know it by the look of his face too. He will sit back, and I knew when I was watching at the bar, I'm like, yeah, we just tied this game up. Going to the top of the 9th inning though, Garrett Whitlock comes in, and my boy struggles. He gave up the walk to Luis Arias, in which you cannot walk Luis Arias. I'm sorry, Garrett, I love you. Luis Arias does not walk. He does not walk at all. But you know what? That's on DeRosa. You use Whitlock 3 to the 5 games. Do you put Mason Miller in there, Ryan, with a game tied at 2?
I think you go with your best, even if it's a tie game. It's the last game of the tournament, and you got to go. If you're going to go down, you're going to go down with your best. So I would have won Miller. Yeah.
What's he waiting for? Legitimately, what is he waiting for? It's they were saying something about the Padres restrictions or something like that. I really don't care. It's the last game of the tournament in a tie game after Bryce has tied it up. You get Miller going up, let him pitch. That is that.
At least let him go an inning. Just let him pitch the 9th.
Yeah.
And then whatever happens after that.
Because I guarantee you, Ryan, if Whitlock gets out of that top half, guarantee you they put Miller in extra innings. It's just something just tells me that. Of course, we can't, think about it now, but and then, Venezuela, of course, gets the guy on. And what is the biggest thing, Ryan, that happens after a leadoff walk? It's usually never good. And, of course, they got the stolen base and Eugenio Suárez, who had a phenomenal tournament. Whitlock hands a changeup. They got the lead, and then we go down in 1, 2, 3 in the 9th. So you could blame on Whitlock. I get it. Of course, he gave up the run. But the biggest picture was, Ryan, that this Team USA lineup really underperformed heavily via their lineup and postseason exhibition play and postseason play with all the other guys that they had. And that's why they lost. And congratulations to Team Venezuela. That fan base looked like they were a hell of a time. Give them a lot of credit. I'm very, very happy for them. That seemed like a fan base that was really, really wanted for very long. And that was their first one. So give them a lot of credit. But, man, Ryan, as a country, we haven't had one since 2017.
Yep.
And we've had the last 2 chances in the finals, losing 3-2. It's tough. It really is tough.
Yeah, like you mentioned, though, the big bats, the names in the USA lineup just did not come through. The U.S. team only had 3 hits the whole game, and 2 were by Harper. And the lineup was just really
the tournament too.
No offense to your boy Rodriguez, but Eduardo Rodriguez should not be carving up the USA lineup like that.
I know. It was crazy. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah, the first half of that game was pretty boring, to be honest with you. For like the first 5, obviously once Harper hit the home run, we were like, all right, now it's going to start picking up. But the game beforehand, every half inning that the U.S. team was batting lasted maybe 5 minutes at most. They were just going down very meekly every inning. The at-bats were really not competitive. They were swinging out of their shoes. They were just not working the count very well. It was just a very poorly played game overall by the U.S. They were lucky they even got on the board with Harper. It was, like I said, the only reason they got on the board was because of Harper, because he hit the home run. But other than that, nobody else did anything in that game. It was just a very, very poorly played game by the U.S. And, with the fact that they, with the way that they played in that final game and the fact that they lost to Team Italy, no disrespect to Team Italy, they played very well this tournament as well. But just based on those 2 aspects alone, the U.S. really didn't deserve to win this tournament. They should have done so much more in this tournament, and they just never felt special to me, honestly, throughout this whole tournament. They never felt like, wow, I'm watching one of the best teams ever assembled. To me, and they never clicked, if you ask me. They just never really, they were all complimentary of each other. They would, talk about positive about each other in the press, saying how great it is to be able to play with these guys and represent their country. And, I'm sure they were, they got along great, and I'm sure that they felt a sense of pride. But still, from what I saw on the field, though, they just never truly gelled together. For me, it just kind of felt like they were just another team from Major League Baseball. It felt like another all-star team, to be honest. It just never really felt special.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that. And obviously we're looking forward to the next one, for sure. But yeah, World Baseball Classic is over. I'm sad about it, but you know what? MLB is back next week. we got the opening preview. We're going to go probably a little bit over time, probably about 10 minutes here. I know obviously, probably should be out in about 5, but since of course we have this, Ryan, really quickly, what are you looking forward to for, of course, next week? Of course, we'll probably talk a little bit more, but your team and your Yankees are going to be opening up the season by yourself, nobody else there. I don't even know if it's ever happened for your Yankees, Ryan, in terms of you guys being the only team to open up the season in your franchise. I'd be curious to know if you know about that. But you guys will be taking on the San Francisco Giants. Max Fried getting the ball against U.S.'s own Logan Webb, who pitched really well. He's going to be opening up for the Giants on Wednesday. And then, of course, next Thursday, so a week from today, is opening day. Very, very excited about that stuff. My Red Sox will be going to Cincinnati to take on the Reds. Big Garrett Crochet will be taking on Andrew Abbott. Originally, it was going to be Hunter Green. Hunter Green, of course, unfortunately is injured. Wishing him the best of luck, but he was supposed to pitch Pirates, Paulie Skeens against Peralta, White Sox Brewers, Washington Cubs, Twins Orioles, Angels Astros, Tigers Padres. That actually should be a really good matchup.
Yeah.
Rays Cardinals, Rangers Phillies, D-backs Dodgers, and Guardians Mariners. So those are going to be the matchups, folks, for opening day next week. I will be at the Red Sox home opener the following week against the Padres. I'm very, very excited for that. But Ryan, really quickly, what are you looking forward to for opening day next week?
Sure are a lot of interleague games on opening day this year. A lot of AL and NL matchups. In terms of what I'm looking forward to on opening day for this year specifically, obviously, like you mentioned, my Yankees are going to be playing in the very first Major League Baseball regular season game in 2026. The game is on Netflix, which I think is ridiculous. Why you have to play opening day? Why you have to broadcast opening day on Netflix of all places? It's a slap in the face to the older generation of baseball fans. I understand this is a PR move. This is all about money. I get it. Baseball's a business. And, it comes down to the dollar at the end of the day. But still, you got to show more respect to the older generation than this. This is getting out of hand. But yes, we are in San Francisco for the second time, 23, 24, 25, 26. For the second time in 4 years, the Yankees are opening up the season against the Giants. They opened up the season against them.
That's right, yeah.
In 23, but that was at Yankee Stadium. This time, the Yankees are going out to the West Coast. It's going to probably be cold out there. It's only going to be in the low 50s, and that ballpark at the end of March, it's not exactly the warmest weather out there. But I'm curious to see, obviously, how the Yankees do. This is not only a make or break year for Major League Baseball in general, with the CBA agreement expiring at the end of the year. We don't know exactly which direction the game and the sport's going to be heading in. It's also kind of a make or break year for the Yankees. They've had a lot. They've obviously squandered many opportunities to go all the way. And, this is just another year of, checking off another prime year of a lot of their players. A lot of guys are getting up there in age. Judge is now in his mid-30s. Cole is going to be entering his late 30s. Stan's going to be in his late 30s this year. And, I'm it's like the grains of sand are just starting to get smaller and smaller through the hourglass, basically, at this point. Time's running out, and, we'll see what happens. But, yeah, Yanks are opening up against the Giants. Giants are going to be an interesting team to watch this year. They could exceed expectations. I think the Giants are projected to win somewhere between like 80, 85 games, something like that. They have a very young manager. I forget his name is it Vitello?
Tony something?
Tony Vitello, I think that's his name. Something like that.
That sounds right.
Yeah, Tony Vitello. He's coming from collegiate baseball, and he's going to be making his MLB managerial debut, and he's doing it against the Yankees in San Francisco. So that's pretty neat. It's going to be pretty neat to see. And we'll see if the Giants are able to kind of be a threat to the Dodgers and the Padres this year in the National League West. The division has been dominated by those teams, more so the Dodgers, obviously. But, the Giants, haven't been in the playoffs since 2021. And they've been mediocre, for the past 5 seasons. So, the Giants are looking to kind of get back into the respectability column at least. So that'll be an interesting opening day matchup. Elsewhere around Major League Baseball, other games that I'm interested in seeing. We open up on the Well, we open up on the 25th, the Wednesday. Everybody else, I think, is the following day, the 26th.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm just looking around the league. I mean, most of the games, honestly, are kind of to be honest with you. Nothing really is standing out to me that much. I mean, the
Dodgers
and the Diamondbacks should be an interesting game. That's probably like, I guess that game and the Yankees and Giants.
Put some respect, my friend, on Tigers Padres. No?
Oh, that game too. Yeah, I'm looking at Tigers Padres. That should be pretty. That's probably the most exciting matchup of the weekend. I'm just looking. The Rockies and the Marlins are playing each other on opening day.
That's so unread, Ryan.
That might have the lowest attendance for an opening day game in baseball history. I don't know if anybody could care about that game. But yeah, I'm just curious. Where's Tyler O'Neill playing now?
Tyler O'Neill is on the Orioles.
Oh, he's still on the Orioles. Yep. I wonder if he's going to keep his home run opening day home run streak alive. I think he's at 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah. I was wondering why you mentioned Tyler O'Neill for a quick second. Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's been.
Yeah, I'm wondering I wonder if he'll be able to keep that opening day home run streak going. But yeah, I mean, it's mostly for me when it comes to opening day, mostly concerned with my team and seeing how it goes. And I'm just hoping for some decent baseball in the beginning. I think the most intriguing games, Padres, Tigers, and then the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. And I guess I am actually also a little intrigued to see the Blue Jays and the A's. The A's might be able to do some things this year. The Blue Jays
what the A's are doing, man. Like I do think if they get some pitching, like some respectable pitching, they could be definitely a force. And I want them to be better this year. I did.
Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, it's very early in the season. It's obviously the season hasn't even started yet, but you can kind of get an inkling within the first week of the season. You can kind of see seeds or hints as to where a team might trend, at least in the beginning.
Really impressive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we'll see how the Blue Jays are able to back up their pennant. We'll see if they're able to continue what they started last year, because they were a completely different team last year than they were in 2024. And we'll see if they're able to bounce off of last year and go even further this year. So there are a lot of I feel like there's just a lot of question marks besides the Dodgers going into this year.
I do think the Dodgers, like, in the question marks that they have, are like just come on, they could be Roki Sasaki be in the rotation after a subpar spring. That's essentially their question mark. It's that's all right, whatever. But
yeah, I mean, the Yankees are on the West Coast to begin the season. 3 in San Francisco, 3 in Seattle. So
who do you guys open up at home with? I think it's Miami, right?
Marlins. We open up with the Marlins on opening day.
Oh, talk about great home opener crowd run. You probably have.
Well, no, the fans will come out. It's at Yankee Stadium, so
yeah.
The fans are going to come. The fans always come out on opening day, no matter who they're facing. So,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the fact that it's against the Marlins, I kind of got a chuckle out of that, because the Marlins gave us our worst regular season loss last year. And, I would like to at least give them a little bit of retribution this year.
Mm-hmm. Really quickly before we end the show, Tommy Kahnle on my Red Sox.
Change Up Kahnle is now with you guys. Have fun with that.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to quickly have that to finish out the show. But, folks, that'll do it for episode 92 of Hitting for the Cycle. Make sure, of course, to follow us on all of our socials as follows. Obviously we got into a lot of great stuff for you guys on the show. Enjoy March Madness for this weekend. Let's go Huskies. And it should be a really fun stuff, brackets, everything. And then next week we got baseball. Opening day will be next week. We can't wait for it. We obviously talked about that. And so we'll see you guys next week.